Hello everyone, my name is Oliver Rees. Today I'm here to talk to you about Skull Canyon Ski Fest. This is a brand new game from Pandasaurus Games. Let's teach you how to play the game and then I'll come back and give you my thoughts. So this is what the game would look like set up for 4 players. There is another side of the board for 2, which just removes some of the routes to make it a little narrower. There's the sideboard that you're going to be tracking who has the control of the routes, which is obviously empty at the beginning. You've got stuff like the Yeti that's going to start in his cave. At the top of the board here, you have the weather. It's always sunny on day 1, and then random for days 2 and 3. And then you have all of these bonusy sort of tokens, the style tokens, that are shuffled and put across the various slots. You have the slope deck down the side, the draw deck, as well as the 4 available in the market. These look something like this. One player is going to get the ski pass, which is effectively the first player marker, and then you will be taking one of the coloured characters. Now there are 4 coloured characters. They are just colour. There is no difference between them, and it's got a helpful reminder of what you can do on your turn, as well as on the back how you score things and end game scoring. Say we are the red player, which is the red skier here. Well, we're also going to take a whole bunch of these tokens, which we'll be using to claim routes when we've skied down them. So during this skiing phase of the game, you'll be taking 2 actions, and you can either ride a lift, you can take 2 cards by training, or you can actually ski a run. So let's see how they look. If you are taking a ski lift, you go from the bottom to the top, or midpoint in this case, of any of the ski lifts. So I could do this as one of my 2 actions. I could perform the same action again and get to the very top of the lift. Let's see what the other players do. Maybe the yellow player decides to come here and then take 2 cards. They don't like the look of the ones here, so they take 2 cards from the top. That's their training, and these will go into their hand, and there is no hand limit. To do the ski action, you will be looking at the cards that are in your hand and using a set of them, be it in colour or in type, to spend them, and that will get you down the ski slope. Using your player card as a little handy reminder, it tells you how many cards you need to discard, how many points you'll get, and how much fame you'll get. So for instance, if we want to ski down this green route, it will cost us 2 cards. So I could use these 2 blue cards, or I could use these 2 slope style cards. I could also use wilds, but for now let's just use these 2, discarding to the side to go down the track. We are the first to have gone down the fortress route, so we would take one of our tokens, find fortress, and say we've claimed it. Later in the game, this player may wish to go down fortress. They can still do that with just 2 cards. However, if they spend 1 more, because there is 1 token on fortress, they can claim it for themselves. This would see them put their token over the top. It would now cost an additional 2 cards to claim that route, as there are 2 tokens on it. Their 3 cards would be discarded in the same way as normal. Whenever you use a single Yeti wildcard, the Yeti moves, and this can be before or after you've moved in your ski run. The Yeti is placed on any route apart from ones marked with this symbol and block it. No one is going down Bumpville for now. If you've used 2 or more, everyone moves down the mountain 1 route because of an avalanche. They get to pick, and you can go through the Yeti. So maybe I would go there, this player decides to come down here, and this player comes here, and they, unfortunately, are at the bottom of the hill. This is one of the only ways to get through the Yeti, as you can't normally go down that route. You, however, will not be spending any cards to go down these routes, and you will not be claiming them either. You can also get these avalanche tokens that do the exact same thing as playing 2 wilds, and I'll come on to how you get these later. You can also get these lift passes, which allow you to move up a lift for free on your turn, costing no actions, so you'll still have your standard 2. As you can see at the top here, based on the type of run is the number of points you'll get, which is these stars, and how much fame you'll get. Now let's talk about the difference between those two. Scoring points is simple, you'll go around the edge of the board. These fame points, however, are basically like a spendable currency that you can use but will score you points at the end of the game. As the rounds progress, you will get up and down the mountain. If you manage to get down on the final round, you will gain an additional fame point as indicated by the track. Once the round has ended and the day has ended, then you will move on to the lower half of the board. Once in order, you will be choosing where you are going, and you can go forwards but never backwards on this route. So this player might wish to skip the hot tub and go yodeling. They are not able to go back to the hot tub, and everyone that is behind them on this track will be able to go first. For instance, this player might come here because it's a 4-player game. This yellow person might go here. This red skier then might come here. Now, they are still behind the purple lilac person and therefore will be going first. Let's have a look at what these actions do. Here you will be spending one of your slope cards, which you will have picked up hopefully and still got from throughout the round, to gain 3 of these fame points. Going yodeling means you're going to trade in 1 fame point, one of these smaller ones, and you will swap any of the style tokens and gain the avalanche, one of the avalanche tokens that allows you to spend this on your turn to shift everyone down the mountain. I should say that these style tokens double the fame that you get if you've used a set of that type, regardless of the colour. Coming to happy hour, you spend 1 slope card and 2 fame to take 3 slope cards. So that's from the top of the deck or from the face up market of 4. However, if you choose a face up Yeti, it will count as 2 slope cards. But you could, for instance, take these 3 into your hand. Note whenever you are taking cards, as soon as you've taken 1, they do replace. So you would be able to see what's coming out of the deck rather than taking 3 in one go. Coming to ski swap, you spend 1 fame to gain 1 lift pass. The penultimate area, Let It Ride, sees you spend 1 fame, name a colour and reveal 3 cards. Let's say blue. I will draw 3 cards from the top of the deck and add these to my hand. Because none of these are blue, I would actually gain an additional 2. If I'd said red or yellow, these 3 cards would be added, but I wouldn't get the bonus 2. Coming to the hotel is the final thing you'll do in the round, and everyone will do this. Based on the weather of the next round, you will draw a certain number of cards, and then place your skier into a location. If the weather is the frozen symbol here, then you actually get to choose any of the additional huts, some of them being partway up or at the top of the mountain. Otherwise, you always start in the sort of normal cabin. Then you get the chance to buy a single gear card, so getting to the hotel first gives you the most options, as these will not replenish until the start of the next round. These will cost a differing amount of fame, reward a different amount of victory points at the end of the game, and they will all give you a very unique power that only you are going to have. For instance, the Yeti energy drink will allow you to actually go through the Yeti, so no other player will be able to have that if you've bought it. Before the start of the next round, the ski pass is passed on clockwise, indicating who the new starting player will be. The new gear cards will be revealed from the deck, and this daylight tracker is moved back to 4 where it started the round. At the end of the game, you will be trading in every 3 of your leftover fame for a victory point, so this could be an additional 2 points for the red player. Then you will gain the victory points printed on the gear cards that you bought, and finally we look at the awards board. Bear in mind, in 4-player game, this will have more tokens on it, but we have a look at who has the most green runs. This is the red player. They would gain 8 points. In this case, it would be the yellow player for 6 points, and in a tie, it is evenly split, rounded down, so they would get 2 points each. Then you work out who has the most runs overall. In this case, it is just the red player at 6 to 5, so they would gain a 4-point bonus. You may think that these amount of points are sort of skewed negatively away from the hardest runs, but that's because you're going to gain the most points for them during the game. Whoever has the most points wins, with ties split by fame, and then finally split by how many slope cards you've got left. Otherwise, the victory is shared. And that's how to play Skull Canyon Ski Fest. So the game is all about skiing, and I think the name is maybe Skull Canyon is a little bit off-putting. I think some people will call it that rather than Ski Fest. Ski maybe should have been the main name because that is what you're doing. You are doing it over multiple parts, so let's start there. You do have very much a main sort of section of the board where you are skiing or taking the lifts up these routes, skiing back down them with these sort of sets of cards. Now that is a really sort of satisfying bit of gameplay. You work out, I want to go down that route, I'm going to need this set of cards, so you're going to get those into your hand. You're then going to go up the sort of chairlifts and then sort of ski down a little bit, maybe then take a chairlift up to another part and ski down there and claim these routes on a sideboard. That is sort of quite a interesting and very simple way of playing, where you're playing more cards to sort of steal a route from someone else. And that works really well as you are going up the chairlifts and sort of people can see and they're like, oh, I just claimed that route, and they're almost certainly going to go and try and claim it off me, and then they ski down a different one and you're like, oh, I've still got control, we're all good. And some of the lower ones, you can sort of, people will take it off you and then someone takes it off them and then you take it back. And that's a really interesting sort of almost route control, which works really well as you're sort of skiing down and almost, getting these fame points for going down these routes. Now, that sort of gameplay where you're just picking up these sets of cards is very much like a Ticket to Ride. You are just collecting a set of colours or the types of skiing, and that's something that not many games do. You are using these cards for potentially 2 different sets. And it means, all right, I've got a set of 3 blues, I'm going to need more blues, but actually if I pick those slope ones up, I'm going to have 4 of those. So I don't care that these are blue anymore, I'm going to use them for this. Being able to use your cards for 2 different things just makes them feel a little bit more useful to you. So if you get a random card off the top of the deck, it just feels like it could be more useful. Then you've got those wilds that aren't just wild, they're really good and really strong. I think maybe they are stronger than wilds in nearly any other game because they're going to sort of give you that special ability of either causing people to move down the slope or placing that Yeti about. Now in some games you're not going to be placing that Yeti much at all, which it seems like it should be a main thing of the game. Some games you're not going to place it that much, just because you're not playing those wilds in the right combination. Sometimes maybe you are just playing it as a 1, sometimes you're playing it as a 2. And on one of them it will allow or force everyone to move down the mountain, so you've got to choose when you want to do that. Some people are really going to vibe with that, forcing people or blocking people. And you can be a little bit mean. Put that Yeti right in front of someone, it can screw their plan over. But it doesn't happen too much throughout a game. I think some people will maybe do it more than others. But it didn't feel like it was sort of the whole game was just mean, mean, mean. Most of the time you were just going up and skiing down the mountain and trying to get the control, and every now and again someone tried to sort of force your hand by making you move down or blocking you with a Yeti. But only one route can be blocked, and there's a number of Yetis in the deck, so 9 times out of 10 you could sort of play a different route, move the Yeti off, and you're all good. Now, there is then the other side of the board, that bit at the bottom that you sort of do between the days. This is both a really cool part and a really sort of almost second thought. I really like the sort of Taekaido ratchet, ladder, whatever you want to call it, where you can go as far along and then people behind you can catch up. You're going to be using that, and you want to make sure you've got the ability to be using some of those to get your stuff like your gear, your extra cards, your free pass to go up a ski lift. So that's basically like a free turn that round, or that turn, and things like that. They're all really cool. And the problem I have with it is you're only doing that a couple of times, a few times in the game. It feels like you almost, every time you get to the bottom of a ski run, you should be able to go along this track almost. Because getting like that free lift pass and things, it just felt really useful and really cool that I've got this bigger turn, I can do this more stuff. And it felt like, certainly with the gear, it's great. But if you get it in like at the end of the first round, you've only got it for a couple more, and then if it's at the end of the second round, is it actually worth it? Yeah, it's probably worth it for the points that it's worth, but that ability would have been really cool if I had it at the start of the game. It just felt like you have this really cool secondary bit and they just underuse it, to be honest. Like, maybe make the gear not quite as good, but let me get more of it. Let me go along those tracks at the bottom more. I'm not quite sure how that would work with people coming down the mountain at different times, but it just feels like you're doing all the fun skiing, then you're doing this little track, and you're getting some benefits that are cool, but you're not doing that enough to really warrant having it as this extra section. Putting that to one side, about the theme of the game, I think it works really well. It looks like sort of a ski map that you'd get when you go to the Alps or something like that, or wherever you are in the world, where you've got the different coloured runs. And I really like the fact that they have gone in and made like easy, medium and hard routes. I'm not sure that's the exact sort of names, but you've got like your different coloured runs. That's really cool, and it makes sort of sense of why you need to have like these training cards almost of more skiing to be able to do one of the black runs compared to one of the green runs and stuff like that. That just, yeah, it makes sense. You're going up the hill and then you've got to come back down via the runs. Not many other themes would allow you to go up the map and then back down it at this, like, with it not being just a confusing mess. The fact you're talking about it being a ski run and a mountain, you easily can go, well, I'm not going to be able to go up this route. I have to go up at one of the lifts and then ski down that wiggly route. It just makes the game a lot easier to teach. And, with that very nice, easy sort of family Ticket to Ride like card play to go down the different routes, and then pay an extra card to maybe or pay a couple of extra cards or whatever to try and claim that route off someone. I think a lot of people will enjoy this. You do have that slight bit of meanness. It doesn't necessarily happen that much though. It could happen lots in one game and then hardly at all in the next. And then you've got that bottom bit where you're getting the fun gear that makes you a little bit different from your opponents. So I think a lot of people will enjoy this one, and I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Anyway, until next time, check out other news and reviews on the Dice Tower, and I'm Oliver East, signing out.